Welcome to Nerd Hole and welcome to the internet because today we're going to be talking about kind of the subject when it comes to horror. If you are someone who likes horror, I'm sure that you've had this philosophical debate within your mind, or maybe you haven't, but I hope you have, of how much is too much violence? Why do I enjoy this? Am I is it moral that I like to see body parts flying on screen? Am I a caveman for that? I don't know.
You're just a walrus.
You're just a walrus. And the two movies we're going to talk about that have to do with this, about voyeurism and violence, are Red Rooms and Tusk. Red Rooms is an excellent film. Everyone should definitely watch it. Tusk is not for everyone, but we will argue it does have its merit.
I think Tusk finds its audience. It
That's
truly
right.
does. Yes.
That's right. It was a fan requested film, after all. So it kind of comes with a built in audience if you're going to do that. So, Red Rooms is, I'm going to give you a really brief plot synopsis. Red Rooms is about a young woman who becomes obsessed with the trial of a serial killer. Is on trial for murdering young girls in a live stream on the dark web. So, just absolutely one of the most disgusting human beings you can imagine. And she's there, sort of. You don't understand really the motives. So, she meets this other girl. Her name is Clementine, who has a parasocial relationship with the serial killer and thinks, despite overwhelming evidence, that he's innocent.
Most of the time when we talk about parasocial relationships, we talk about through the screens, right? Which is a big part of this movie. Hence, welcome to the internet. But in this case, it's a parasocial relationship through a glass case, through a glass cage, basically. Because during the trial scenes, the killer is encased in glass. And the idea of glass rooms, I think the director mentioned Kellyanne's apartment is a glass room. Also, the court where they're playing, is it racquetball?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that too. Glass room. So that's how the parasocial relationship goes. We don't hear a word out of the killer throughout the film. He's just a presence there, which is
Yeah.
very effective and creepy.
It's
Okay.
very effective. So there's video evidence of these murders having taken place. There's two videos that the courts have gotten a hold of, but there's a third murder that he's been accused of, but they don't have the tape. And throughout the movie, Kellyanne goes to great lengths to get her hands on that third tape. She finally does through some. She's also like a tech whiz and very good with like numbers. So she's gambling for Bitcoin and gets enough money to bid on this item that's up for sale in the dark web. And you start to think, okay, the reason why she's obsessed is because she wants to help put him away, right? She's the hero of the story. But then the way that she chooses to release the tape is to break into the victim's house dressed as the young girl, which is so disturbing. Even enters her room and takes a selfie on her bed, and then walks into her mom's bedroom while she's sleeping and leaves the tape on a USB drive with the tape on it on her nightstand for her to find in the morning. It's incredibly disturbing. Um, Her motivations are very unclear still after all of that, but the tape is indeed what actually gets him, what seals the deal and gets him put away.
We were making jokes about, so clearly the Lady of Shalott, is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
Um, is a little Easter egg in there. Well, not really an Easter egg. It's more like an omelet. That is scattered all over the movie. The reference to, well, and I finally went and listened to the Tennyson poem, on audio, and I actually wrote down the name of the guy who was reading it on the internet because he read it so beautifully. It was mesmerizing, hypnotic. Arthur L. Wood is the channel that I found reading this Tennyson poem. That's her username on the dark web, I guess. So that's important to know. And we were both trying to wrap our heads around this myth and see how it could inform the movie. But okay, so everything about this movie is very understated, very ambiguous. But I wish he had just had this guy read the poem before the opening scene, just in the dark screen. The Again, the hypnotic, mesmerizing effect. It's in her performance as Kellyanne as well. There's an ambiguity. The Lady of Shalott is referred to as a fairy at some point. So Kellyanne's Bitcoin thing, her poker game, which, by the way, she says of poker that she's basically exploiting the emotions of other people. It's in the argument that she's a psychopath, that moment with Clementine where she's talking about playing poker is pretty
Yes.
on the side of that.
There's a scene where they're going to lunch and she's like, hold on, let me make some money to pay for this real quick. And just like pulls up a game and like, she's like, okay, I just made more than enough to cover our lunch. Let me pay for your lunch. And so Clementine's interested. And then she's sitting there and she's like, I love watching them. You just have to be patient. You just have to be patient and sit here and just wait for them to like make a mistake, and then you move in and just strip everything, like take everything from them.
Yeah.
And Clementine goes, oh, shit, you're evil.
Well, I already knew because of the avocado scene. Who removes avocados from a salad? What kind of
A psycho. That's who.
Clearly, clearly. But oh, fairies. Can I just say that so the director talked about her being that the whole film is kind of like a creepypasta in that your imagination fills things in, which is the thing we should talk about. Um, the fairy. So he talked about framing her as both a ghost and a witch in a way. There's something witchy because someone asked him a dumb question like, well, it's unusual to see a female lead who's into poker and Bitcoin and stuff. I mean, come on. Like
Sexist much?
a little bit. And the only point of reference was Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, you know. It's like, oh, girls can computer. I mean, to be fair, I can't computer. I can't internet to save my life. So then he got into a conversation about the ethereal nature of the way that he would frame her, like through a glass door, so she looks like a ghost. And then she's supposed to
Wow.
be a witch, kind of, in her tower as well. She's witchy. Which made me think of Neon Demon because I kept thinking of Neon Demon in terms of the aesthetics of the movie. But Neon Demon, of course, is eyeballs to the wall kind of gore. This is not at all. This is the opposite.
There's no gore. That you don't actually ever see any violence at
There's
all.
not a drop of blood in this movie.
Mm-mm.
The only murder you see is the murder of that avocado. So
And it's brutal.
it was brutal. It was so traumatic. The way she just the pieces of avocado just thrown out
Flying
just
everywhere.
onto the table practically.
Oh,
It was horrifying. So, okay, why is this related to the internet? Red rooms have been an internet legend for a long time, urban legend. And you can actually, unfortunately, a lot of people have seen gore on the internet that they didn't mean to see. This is the kind of thing that the young people I've heard jump scare each other with all the time. It's horrible. And that's real gore. Um, but the internet now is talking about Kellyanne's motivations as well. This is a kind of a problem we all have to solve together because it is so ambiguous.
it is. It
Okay.
is. It's that makes so much sense to me. The witch kind of reference, of course, like with the Lady of Shalott, you've got her. She's in this tall apartment. It's all like wall to wall windows. You get to see out over the city, and she is just kind of sitting atop, like very detached. She's completely detached. And then the other thing is she's a model, and they show a lot of her very editorial campaign looks, and some of the looks are very witchy.
Yes. And Oh, that was the other reason I thought of Neon Demon. Just because modeling is creepy. It really is. But it's like that's her public persona, I'm just a girl kind of
Yeah.
thing. And then privately, she is an obsessive computer genius, or at least to
Yes.
me, because I don't know how to work a computer. But the idea at the end that we are rooting for her to win a snuff film is so sick.
Hmm.
But we are because she's not going to just. But she does watch it.
Yeah.
But she does hand it over and she gets him put in jail.
There's two scenes that hit me like a slap across the face. One of them, you've got Kellyanne and Clementine sitting down and watching the videos. Because, of course, Clementine they kick everyone out of that is not directly involved in the case so that no one has to watch or no one can watch the videos other than the people directly involved, the jury. And Clementine is, really curious about the videos, and Kellyanne lets it slip that she's seen them. And so, of course, then they watch them together. And so you get this shot of both of their faces. You never see a single second of this footage. You do hear sounds, but you just see their faces. And Kellyanne is completely stoic and she's analyzing kind of frame by frame, like, look, here you can see his eyes, and here's where you can see, check out his movements and how long his arms are. That's what she's focusing on. Whereas Clementine, who's been insisting that this guy is innocent all along and claims to be in love with him, uh, is just devastated by what she's seeing and can barely keep her eyes open, like tears streaming, the way a normal person who's not a psychopath would react to those videos.
Both of those performances are so good, which
So good.
is good because there aren't a lot of characters in this movie.
No. And then
So,
the other scene that just destroyed me. In order to get in, they have to sleep outside waiting for the courtroom to open because this is a really big case that's generated a lot of publicity and people want to get in. And so that they're the first ones there, they get there at like 2 o'clock in the morning so they can, stand in line and wait. But she comes in and she dresses completely as the one of the victims in like her schoolgirl uniform. She puts contacts in the
and the
in
brace.
the in yes, like really slowly. It's almost like an undressing scene, but
Yes.
it's a dressing scene. It's and she does it with a deliberate kind of slowness, and the whole time she's staring at Chevalier, the killer, and she finally pops in these fake braces, and it's so disturbing. And then, of course, everyone else in the courtroom, because Chevalier just sits there and like stares at his hands. He doesn't ever react to anything that's going on, and you can tell she's just trying to get his attention. It gets everyone else's attention, so of course the mom of the victim is incredibly upset. They get security to escort her out. And that's when Chevalier notices her. And he just glances up and sees her. And he gives her a little wave. And she lights up. For the first time, you actually see her have a facial expression that's not neutral. She looks like she's just blissed out. And the sound, they play like these loud screaming, the score in that scene, it hit me like a jump scare. I was like, oh, it
Yeah.
was so impactful.
And I think it would have hit me if I weren't so distracted by the ambiguity.
Mm,
Because okay, I kept trying to read exactly what that was because my initial thought was she needed to goad him into looking at her so that she would know when she looked into his
yeah.
eyes that that by dressing up as his victim, she could observe the flash of memory across his face and know for sure
Yes.
that that was him. But then again, she already knew.
She
She
already
had
knew.
she'd seen the other tapes, so she knew.
She'd
Um,
seen the tapes, and like the amount of evidence against him is just like the tapes were on his computer. The
yeah.
bodies were buried right outside his house. Like he looks like the person in the tapes. There was all kinds of forensic evidence also. There's not a doubt in anyone's mind at this point.
I'm sorry, this is an aside, but since Tusk is about a walrus, I remember, God, another ocean. It's like Moby Dick is up here, and I just kept thinking like there's an Ahab quality there where she is to her own detriment and the detriment of other people obsessed with
Yes.
with this case with this guy and taking him down.
Mhm.
It's hers. It has to be hers, which is that. And that's the curious thing. Why didn't she give the tape to the police? Why the mother?
I feel like a part of it is she wanted to be involved. She wanted to be personally, like, she had this whole, and it's kind of the nature of parasocial relationships. You see something across a screen, you relate to it, and you start to feel like you are a part of this. And in her own mind, there's even scenes where she's really paranoid. She thinks that people are onto her. Any kind of look she gets, a van parked outside her building, she's just kind of hyper vigilant and thinks that she's a part of this. And so she's like inserting herself in a way and like wanting to be a hero.
To me, the paranoia, the feeling that people are in a van outside her apartment, that wasn't delusional to me. And because again, I don't know, this is about the deep, dark web, and I don't know. That's a mystery to me. That's a portal to a demon dimension. I have no idea what goes on there. And so I thought, well, paranoia might actually be warranted in that case when you're dealing with such high stakes. There might be people tracking you, you know?
However, I think that we also get enough evidence to know that she has been covering her tracks.
She has.
She has like a long explanation about her like her version of Alexa and how she's created this whole like closed circuit, like where
Alexa is another reference to this
uh-huh.
Camelot business that we've been trying to work out with the Lady of Shalott
Yes.
situation. And I actually thought that she came across as a humanoid, as more of a machine,
Mm-hmm.
in a way than a human
Yeah.
being, except for the betting scene. Is that the courtroom scene, the emotional on her face? There is one more expression when she wins the Bitcoin bet to get the video.
Yes.
Her, in fact, I noted that as like everything that crosses her face in that scene. It's an
Mm-hmm.
amazing performance. She's
It
so
absolutely.
relieved.
She's so good.
Okay.
And it's down to the wire. At the same time that she's placing bids in the auction, she's placing bets on this game to win enough money to actually be able to pay for the video. So it's very tense. It's so well done.
One of the things about this movie that works so well, the reason it's haunting and it sticks around in your mind, and you have to talk about it after you see it. Like, if you're going to see it with a process partner, because you're gonna want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Is that we don't see the video. We don't see any of the videos, and it got me thinking about a certain subgenre of horror that I really. Mm-mm. And the prime example is a movie that should have been lost to time, but it had a resurgence on TikTok because people were basically daring each other to watch it. But I think something like Hostel would probably, we weren't really young, we weren't kids, but we were, what, that was '05 or something? I don't know. Oh, but Hostel is also about the same territory of like this Red Room urban legend. It's the idea that some people get so wealthy that they can spend money on uh, torturing and murdering people. But in Hostel, they actually do, and they actually show everything in Hostel. And not to defend Hostel, but I mean, there is a slight sort of tiny amount of cultural value to the movie just because it makes you afraid of the right things. It makes you afraid of the concentration of wealth to that grotesque
Mm.
extent where human lives are just sold to wealthy people. I don't recommend it though. Megan is Missing is the film that got popular on TikTok and people were daring each other to watch it. And it's bad. It's a bad movie. It's not very well made. It's not very well conceived or written or acted or shot. It's just a bad movie. And the last 20 minutes of it are just torture corn. Okay? And with a young actress who's playing a teenager. And it's disgusting. But everyone seems to be watching it for those last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the Poughkeepsie tapes. People are watching it for the tapes. They're not watching it for what surrounds the tapes.
Mm-hmm.
And no one's watching Megan's Missing as a public service announcement about don't get groomed and kidnapped on the internet. It's secretly, it's all just, are they going to show it? And so what's brilliant about this movie is that
They don't.
They don't. And it's this slow pace. And if you're in it to see the gore, grotesque, I hate to say it, money shot, too bad. Screw you. And this is the actual connection between this film and Tusk, which is that Tusk is like, oh, you want to see it? You want to see someone turn into a walrus? Okay.
It's literally Kevin Smith being like, all right, you sick fucks. I'll give you a walrus movie. So, yes, there is that quality of you never see the tapes, and it's a recent movie. It came out in 2023. I went into it totally blind. I didn't know if there is lore around this of, people talking about like, oh, you never see the videos. I was expecting that at some point we were going to be shown something, and I was kind of clenching and waiting for it. Um, and of course, I was very relieved, and I thought it was so clever that you don't. Because, and this is something that I meant to say the whole time that we were talking about Pontypool, is that what you don't see is oftentimes so much worse than what you do. What you can actually imagine and hear from the girls screaming, you're generating that image in your mind already. There's kind of no point in showing you. But then the camera is not turned towards the computer with the video on it. The camera is turned towards the viewer of the video and their reaction. It's telling you, like, this is the thing that's important. Not what's on the videos, but how people relate to them, how people watch them, how people react to them, or how people don't watch them. I have never seen Hostel. I've never seen Last House on the Left. I've never seen Human Centipede. There's a lot of movies that I just am not interested in and I just won't watch.
Please don't see those movies. Please
And
don't.
like, and Hostel, I do think it had its cultural moment. It definitely changed a lot of things in horror, and at times I've been like, well, should I watch it? And then I think about all the other movies that I would rather watch, and I'm like, yeah, maybe someday, but today's not that day. Uh,
Eli Roth actually, was it Slovakia? Yeah, I think he like destroyed the tourism industry. He did damage to the tourism industry with that movie because the idea that these Eastern European countries are really scary for American tourists. Um,
yeah, that's
yeah,
gross, Eli.
it is. Wait, Eli Roth is gross? Who knew? Inferno, Eli Roth is gross?
Yeah, I don't like him. That's the other thing. I just don't like him. This also just has to do with the conversation around consumption of true crime. You've got these two characters who are interacting with the true crime system in a really direct way, but there's so many people. It is just an absolute phenomenon of people that are incredibly interested in serial killers and in getting all of the dirty little details. They want to know exactly what happened to the victims. To the point where, the serial killers end up being idolized and played by teen idols in movies, like Zac Efron playing Ted Bundy. And I struggle with it as someone who is really fascinated by the extremes of the human condition. Am I exploiting the victims using these horrific things that have happened to them for my personal entertainment? And that's, how many times have I actually put on a true crime documentary to like fall asleep to?
I think I have an answer to this. Okay.
Please
So
answer for me.
I will answer for you. So the way you feel when you've got a pantry full of food and all the bright colors in the grocery store of the cereal boxes are supposed to remind you of ripe fruit, and you're supposed to feel comforted by the fact that you're in a forest full of food. Wow. Your lizard brain says, "Hey, we're okay here." The thing about true crime is it appeals to, like, again, when we were hunter-gatherers, there were psychopaths. They existed. And I'm not saying all psychopathic people are violent, of course not. As
Mm-mm.
I've said before, I mean,
Most of them are just politicians and CEOs.
exactly. Yes. Or surgeons or pilots or careers where you need to be able to be cool under pressure, firefighters. I mean, psychopaths can contribute to society in wonderful ways. The politicians and CEOs, actually CEOs in prison, corporate boardrooms in prison they're overrepresented there. But the point is we've always had the problem. Um, and I think I I might be totally wrong about this, but I remember reading somewhere, I think there are some cultures who have words for the person that you push into the ocean when no one's looking. Like you go out on a hunting trip and in fact there's a great Inuit movie called The Fast Runner where they're dealing with this issue. When evil comes into a small
Mm.
community, how does the community cope with it? So by talking about it, by learning about serial killers and talking about it, we're doing this ancient communal thing where we're saying that's that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
It's a community defense reaction, and it's in the lizard brain back there
Mm.
with colorful cereal boxes reminding us I mean, giving us comfort because they remind us of abundance.
Yeah.
So it's a safety behavior that I don't think is pathological.
Hmm.
It can be,
Yeah.
which is what this movie approaches. If you are watching, if you are watching it to learn about the, ooh, you know, the crimes, the titillating
Hmm.
details of crimes, but most of us are just fascinated by evil, by the depths of
Hmm.
evil.
I grew up in a household where like Law and Order was always on. It was kind of in the environment.
SVU
But
is
yeah,
too
it's
much.
such, I've
Yes,
seen every single episode of SVU.
yes.
Uh, I, yeah. So I feel though like I am particularly interested in the parts of the documentaries that are about a serial killer's early life. I want to know how you get to be that because when I think about this unspeakable, unimaginable evil and how someone could get to that point, I want to understand. I'm like, how? How does this happen? And so I think I go looking for answers so that it'll comfort me.
And Tusk actually does answer this question
Mhm.
for Michael Parks, but we'll get to that for his character, Howard Howe. Well, that's not his real name. None of his names are real names. But Michael Parks' character, it does answer the question of how he got there. And it
It
answers it
does.
quite sufficiently. Maybe Kellyanne is aware that she has a deficiency of conscience herself, maybe,
Mm.
and is coming at it from the same angle that looking into the mirror, because the Lady of Shalott is all about mirrors. The Lady of Shalott is about she sees the world through a mirror, and so everyone goes for the screens or the
Yes.
glass cages in there. But I go for he's her mirror
Mirror. Yeah.
in the way that she is a pro-social psychopath, like Dexter, right? Possibly. And I don't know why we're assuming she's a psychopath, just because people who are neurodivergent too often have resting um resting tism face where they don't express emotions demonstrably like in their
Yeah. I don't
so
think that. I don't think that because of her facial expression while she's watching the
yeah,
movie. I mean
you think
the
that because of the
I don't
avocado.
no. Yes.
No, because
No.
not be
I think that
Yeah.
The moment that I started thinking that is when she broke into the victim's mom's house dressed as the victim, sat down on her bed, and took a selfie.
Yes.
What are you going to do with that selfie? Why do you want that with like a big smile on her face, dressed as this little girl who was tortured to death on live stream? Like that's the part where I'm like, okay, you're no longer there. There's no, there's nothing redeemable here. There, none of your motivations are not good. I can't.
I read it as she was going to send that to the mom to say the disruption I caused in court wasn't for nothing. Okay. I wasn't
Mm.
trying to be horrifically offensive to you. I'm the person, I'm the vigilante who, you know, give me some credit, who found this tape and is going to put him behind bars.
So
Because
can you
she's watching the
imagine?
interview. She's watching the interview where the mother is saying, I just want to know. And she's saying, okay, you know. I don't know.
Uh-uh.
Uh-uh.
Uh-uh. No,
Okay.
because she could just as easily have written her a note that said when she left her, okay, first of all, she didn't have to break into her house and put it on her nightstand. She could have left it in an envelope at her door or right inside the door. She didn't even have to come in. Okay? And she could have written a note that said, I'm sorry, I'm the person that like caused that scene in court. I only dressed that way to get his attention so that I could be absolutely sure that it was him, so that I could psych myself up to do what I needed to do to put him away forever. I'm sorry that I caused you discomfort and extra pain. What she's doing here is actually creating more chaos and causing more pain. There is no way. Can you imagine how disturbing it would be
Yeah. The
to
fact,
not only to see somebody dressed as like your child who was murdered,
yeah.
but to know that they were doing that while you were sleeping in the victim's
Yes.
bedroom?
Yes. And there's no indication on the thumb drive to say what this is. So
Mm-mm.
she
So
will
she's
print out
gonna
and
have
know.
to watch it.
Okay. Okay, Kellyanne. I tried to defend you, Kellyanne.
Mm-mm. There is no defending
Can't do it.
Kellyanne.
And I didn't mean to like make the comparison to Dexter because Kellyanne, as far as we know, is not herself a murderer.
No.
Um, but you made a comparison to, or we talked about I Saw the Devil, which you
Mm-hmm.
have seen and I haven't seen, but I do know what happens where the vigilante is actually responsible for the violence. And so there's a mirror thing going on in that movie
Yes.
as well. Um, but this mirror is different. It's unsettling, uncanny.
And I think it's meant to show us um, that we are not sufficiently disturbed, that there is something kind of wrong with this voyeurism, and that if we were here expecting to see the tapes, if we were, whatever our motivations were for being there, are just as dubious as Kellyanne's.
Yes, which is why the title is Red Rooms. So you think, yeah, because there was a terrible movie called Red Room that came out
Mm,
a while back, which is just that. And
gross.
and they light the room in red. I mean, it's not even, it's so obviously not even really a movie. I'm sorry, whoever made that. Um, but the red room is her room.
Hmm.
The red and that saturated just red light on her face when she's watching the video.
And it almost, the red light, they do this effect where it gets like more and more intense to the point where it starts to fade out her facial features.
Yes.
And you just see more and more red, and there's less, she's sort of like receding into the red. It's an incredible effect, and it's so telling.
Yeah, I'm not going to show you what she's seeing, but I am going to show you her
Hmm.
face, and this will disturb you more than if she's.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And the way that what she is seeing is like physically changing her. It's changing how you see Kellyanne. It's changing how she like perceives the world. It is like turning her into something, the way that the image is warping.
It's perfectly exemplifies what people say on the internet. There are things you can't unsee,
Mm-hmm.
which is true. Be
Yeah.
careful on the internet. There are things you can't unsee. Yeah.
Yes. I think
Yes.
you could read it as an indictment of, oh, the dark web is just like that's what it's about. It's about how disgusting these practices are and how there's this like place online that is just crime and horror,
Yes.
real life horror.
But the dark web is needed to, yeah, report on and prevent real life horror as well. So
Exactly.
yeah, we're stuck with it. The internet is like the rest of life.
Hmm.
The yeah, good and evil right up against each other.
And that brings us
That brings us to Tusk.
and that brings us to Tusk, which is a movie directed by Kevin Smith. He was famously on a podcast on where this ridiculous idea for a movie came out, and he asked fans to text in walrus yes or walrus no, uh, to see if he should make this movie. It was basically like, huh, dare me to make this movie.
Yeah.
And enough people did to where he actually made it. I didn't know that the first time I watched it.
You didn't. Oh, okay, that changes everything.
It does.
It really does. Okay, so can I just I knew. I knew
Tell
what it
us tell us what Tusk is about.
okay. This is actually because we have to reference Buffy every episode because I'm a nerd. Can you do you know this reference?
Yes, it's Dawn.
Dawn. It's Dawn. She's pretending to be a vampire, but when I saw her, I was like, "Are you a walrus?" No, she's a vampire. Okay, look, we have to go back if we're going to talk about Tusk. Just like the Tennyson poem for Red Rooms, you need to hear the poem in a certain way to really get Red Rooms. In order to get Tusk, all you have to do is look at the lyrics of the song Tusk by Fleetwood Mac that plays at the end in the action sequence of Tusk. The lyrics of this song are, "Don't say that you love me, just tell me that you want me," which is perfect for this movie because I can't disagree with people on Rotten Tomatoes who say this is trash, this is just hot garbage, what are you doing? Kevin Smith, you idiot. I can't disagree, I can't argue with them, but it's not about me loving Tusk. It's that do I want Tusk to exist? And I would say yes, and that's what Kevin Smith asked his fans. So that's why the little behind the scenes thing is called Walrus Yes. Walrus Yes was the hashtag on Twitter that he told the fans just Walrus Yes or Walrus No. That's the question. It doesn't matter if you like it. Do you want to live in a universe where Michael Parks turns Justin Long into a walrus human hybrid thing, um, very medically impossibly? Do you want that universe? Okay, or not? And I say, Walrus, yes. I do want to live in that universe. Why not? This thing exists. And also, I kind of love it. I have to say that Michael Parks in this movie as our villain um, is one of my favorite performances in any movie ever, not just
Mm.
in the horror genre. Every time he's on screen, I just
He's so
it's
good.
it's gleeful watching him work. He's amazing.
But anyway,
But
I
yes,
love I love Tusk, and it's because
I love Tusk.
this movie is about Kevin Smith just flipping us a bird for wanting him to make it.
And
He is making a commentary about how we are just sick in the head. He's like, you want this, you got it. And so we, the viewer, the listener, are now Justin Long's character. And he's going to make us suffer, even to the point where it makes absolutely no sense.
in a way, Kevin Smith is also Justin Long's character. Um, because this started on a podcast and they thought it would be funny. And it's so okay, the more I think about, I hadn't seen it in a while, and I just rewatched it, and I think I was a few beers in the first time I saw it, and I laughed my head off. I thought it was hysterical and gross and moving. And this time I thought, no, this is more than. Look, Tusk is kind of brilliant. Okay, it's it could be interpreted as Kevin Smith both, yes, saying, "Hey, audience, you wanted this. Here it is. You sorry, it exists now thanks to you. You voted for this." There are movies that you don't want to see, really. And then you can't get mad at the director for because people say Justin Long in the walrus suit, I can't unsee that. Nightmare fuel forever, which I don't really understand because the suit itself is so
It's so silly.
it's so
It's so
silly.
silly. In
But
terms of like what the violence is, it's seriously, it's like a patchwork of skin. Honestly, if you're watching this new Ed Gein show, then you've seen worse than Tusk already.
yes, and it's obviously just latex. It's not the hyper realistic silicone that they used in like 127 hours or in Antichrist, for
Mm-mm.
example. It's gross. And it was made with like stuffing trash cans and just junk into this giant frame. And poor Justin Long had to sit in there with his
With his,
crucified T-Rex arms, as Johnny Depp's ridiculous character says.
yeah.
But Tusk, as the more I think about it, the more brilliant it gets. Everyone talks about the bad, like so bad they think you must be telling us it's fake CG blood in the opening. The video that they are making fun of, the viral video that they're mocking on the podcast, is a poor kid. It's, you know, based on like Star Wars Kid, which was a viral video early in the internet, but it's the Kill Bill Kid, where a guy has a katana and he accidentally cuts his own leg off doing a performance for, and they're making fun of this on the podcast. So the bad CGI on the leg, people would say, how is that even in a movie? This is like released in theaters movie. It's so bad. It looks like something I would make at home. But that's kind of the point, I think, is that it's a way of throwing us off for the uh, comparatively pretty great practical effects reveal of the walrus suit. We're seeing it through their eyes where it's not even real blood, it's artificial. Uh, it looks CG to them because they're so desensitized. But everything after that is done practically, which practical effects, as we know from The Thing, always hold up better and are always scarier,
Mm-hmm.
basically. What happens is how he ends up in this whole situation is that he goes up to Canada to find this kid and interview him because the name of their podcast is the NOTSEE, which they think is so clever. It's once again they're making light of something
Mm-hmm.
horrific. They're making
And
a joke,
it's not
but
even like it just sounds like it, and that's funny. Like he does a German accent
yes,
and
yes,
he does a
he
little,
leans into it.
it it's gross.
It's yeah,
He's
it's not
gross. And
translate
he's racist because
really
he's
to his
he's
girlfriend.
actually racist to his girlfriend.
Um, the reason it's called the allegedly what he says, it's not just a horrible joke. NOTSEE party, his podcast, is because he goes to see things, and his friend Teddy, the Teddy, stays home
Hmm.
and does not see
See
the
it.
act. Yes, so that's his thing. So he goes up to Canada to find the Kill Bill Kid, and the Kill Bill Kid has apparently unalived himself. He doesn't have a moment of, oh, that's terrible. He
Mm-mm.
says basically, oh, damn, I gotta
I
find a new
can't.
story. And he finds a new story taking a piss because on the bathroom wall is Howard Howe's glorious over the top letter that's like a callback. I mean, it's so clearly a letter from Dracula who wants to lure you into his mansion for stories to tell. Gumtree is where this all started. It's like a message board thing where there was an ad made actually by a young man, but the ad was posing as basically a Howard Howe, like old man Dracula character, who simply was saying, you know, I have a room available, and all you have to do for an hour a day is dress up like a walrus and be a walrus. And and so he made this fake ad, and the discovery of this fake ad was the beginning on the podcast. It was the seed of this whole idea. They were riffing on that. So the kid who wrote the ad in the first place on Gumtree ended up making a cameo in the film in a bar scene, and he's from Brighton. So if I remember correctly, Wallace Brighton, that's where they got his last name. The
Yeah.
location where Tusk was born.
Interesting.
So Michael Parks, that is part of his story, part of how he became a monster, is abuse from the government and the church during an awful period of Canadian history.
Yeah.
So, and which, by the way, an aside, Mr. Tusk is the janitor who was the only person who was ever kind to him. No one was ever kind to him except for this janitor and the walrus. And
And the
he,
janitor's name was Tuskegee.
Mr. Tuskegee, right? Which another reference to medical experimentation on innocent people. Yes, there's a lot of horror and ugliness to life, and
Mhm.
the movie does, to its credit, talk about that.
I think there's a lot of evidence that he does also see himself in a little bit in the Justin Long character when um he starts to have a conversation like his girlfriend is saying, "Be the old you. I miss who you used to be when you weren't just this asshole on the internet." And he just kind of goes off the rails, just talking down about who he used to be and how great he is now in comparison. I used to be,
Yeah.
a loser and a nerd and whatever.
Kevin
And
Smith,
he,
Clerks, was a loser and a nerd. I mean,
and the,
he made Clerks, he said, in part because there weren't characters in Hollywood movies that talked like his friends.
do you have a favorite scene?
Okay, dramatic scene is when he's leaned up against Justin Long in the walrus suit and he's singing to him. The water is wide, right? And Justin Long starts crying like a walrus with him. But and of course all of the stuff with the tea and the Ernest Hemingway flashbacks and stuff, that's amazing. But really, it's a spider. No, a spider bit you. It's when Justin Long first wakes up and his leg, he's realizing that it has happened. He's
Yes.
been sedated for some reason and he's coming to. And Michael Parks has this amazing, all of his facial expressions. It's like he's on the verge of laughter the entire scene. If a movie isn't good, what I would at least like for it to do is to be something novel, something I've never seen before. And I can say that the tone of that scene is different from anything I have ever seen in a film. It's not it's not horror, it's not comedy. But it is both. It's sad and disgusting and
Yeah.
funny and just on the edge where the actors don't even seem to know where to land. It's it's new. I can't explain it. And for that reason, that scene makes the movie transcendent to me, personally, no matter how bad it is.
I think one of my favorite things about this movie and Michael Park's performance is that same scene you're talking about with the spider, because of how ridiculously long he keeps up the farce of, "No, I didn't just chop your leg off for nefarious reasons. We're all friends here. The doctor just took all the phones in the house." And it made me think of, which is funny because Michael Parks is in Kill Bill Kid, Quentin Tarantino. It just is all connected. Uh, but it made me think of Death Proof, another Quentin Tarantino movie that Michael Parks is also in, where you have a really great example of the farce between predator and prey, where Kurt Russell's character has a victim, an unwitting victim in his car, and he's asking, "Which direction do you need to go?" And the farce is that he's going to drive her home, but obviously he has other intentions. And she says, "I'm going right." And he's like, "Oh, that's too bad." She asks why, and he says, "Because it was a 50-50 shot if you were going in the same direction as me, and we're not gonna have to get scared until later. But since I'm going the other way, you're gonna have to start getting scared immediately. I'm paraphrasing. The script is actually much better than that. Um, and it's so scary in that moment. That killer playing this cat and mouse game where there's a moment where they both know what's going on. They both know what's up, but it's not out in the open yet.
The dinner table where they're sitting very far apart from each other, that
Hmm.
ends in that beautiful shot from outside where they're walrus screaming at each other. The itsy bitsy spider. It's where doesn't he say something like, "Okay, all right, let's be candid with one
Yeah.
another."
There's no reason to keep the lie going for that long. He wakes up and he doesn't have a leg. And at that point, he's immobilized. He could just tell him, yeah, I'm sorry, this is your reality now. But he just keeps up the lie of like, oh, you were bitten by a spider. But then he's playing with him and kind of laughing at him at the same time. And it's really scary.
Pray for your loss. Which, I mean, in a way, the fact that he's laughing as he's saying that line, it's more than Wallace did when he discovered that Kill Bill Kid was dead.
He was like, how dare you? What a waste of time. He couldn't just keep it together for 2 more days.
Yeah.
Like, that's his attitude, which is so crap.
So then Michael Parks scooting away in his little wheelchair, which he does not need. We don't find out until the dinner table scene, beautiful moment where he just stands up, walks down to Justin Long, smacks him in the face.
Oh,
Um,
so scary.
but him wheeling away and that expression on his face that only Parks could get with it's like he's trying to swallow the laughter as he's saying, "I'm sorry for your loss."
Mm-hmm.
But it's not obvious. It's so subtle.
Yeah,
It's an amazing performance.
it
Oh,
really
but
is.
when he talks about his trauma and when he talks about Mr. Tusk, though, I feel for the guy too.
Yeah. I
I don't
mean,
know.
he's completely unhinged, but he's got reasons.
He's got reasons. It's just a very complete. I don't know. He brought more to that character than was probably written. You
Hmm.
know,
The journey that Justin Long goes through, he starts out obviously in a human body without a human soul and has to gain a walrus body to have the ability to cry. Like he has that moment where um oh, his girlfriend, who's awesome, is talking about how her grandfather was saying it's good to cry. And he
the animals.
it's what separates us from the animals. And he's like, I can't cry. I don't know. I can't cry. And then, of course, at the end, when he has to go live the rest of his life in a human zoo, I don't know.
Which again, if you don't like that, if you say, "Why don't they take him to a doctor or something?" You're watching the movie wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because, I mean, if you're looking for logic and scientific merit here,
Wrong.
don't. That's not what it's for. It's about this metaphor of humanity. And um do we lose our humanity by watching horror content? The more that we consume and the more that we get desensitized. Justin Long talks about like the more famous he gets, the more he has to kind of give up his values. Um I don't know. Do you have lines that you won't cross as a horror fan?
Yes. I mean, yes. I think I accidentally crossed a line with Martyrs, which is why I've only seen it once. That was a total accident. I didn't exactly know what I was walking into. I didn't realize how good a movie it would be. And I cried a lot during Martyrs and afterward was traumatized, honestly. So yeah, but a line I won't cross. You know, the one that's at the top of all the lists that isn't horror even. It's supposed to be some political.
A Serbian film?
Yes, and there's one about oh, what's it called? Is it The Men Behind the Sun? What is it? It's about the during World War II Japanese unit that did medical experiments on people And apparently in that film, there's a not an autopsy, vivisection scene that uses an actual human corpse. So I'm not going to see that. Anything, I won't see pink flamingos because of chicken cruelty. I won't see Cannibal Holocaust because turtle cruelty. So yes,
And I am a turtle, so I take offense.
but yeah, yeah, same. Well, actually, I'm
You're a frog. I'm a
yes,
turtle.
but but I have seen the Human Centipede. I love Antichrist. Okay, that's
Yeah.
and that was a line I wouldn't cross back in 2009. I crossed
Mm.
it, and I'm glad I did because it, much like Martyrs, it actually there are two types of horror film watchers they have discovered, I think, through science. There's the ones with low empathy who watch it
Yeah.
because they are desensitized naturally and they want to feel something. Okay, that's
Mm.
one group. The other are the high empathy horror film viewers. And I think both of us fall into that category
Yes.
where our empathy is so high that like we couldn't watch America's Funniest Home Videos as kids because we didn't think it was funny to laugh at people hurting themselves. We would say, ow, ow, my balls.
Oh
And
my
and
God.
so we desensitize ourselves in a way to live in this world,
I have
right?
the perfect example to say that you're right about that. You remember
Yeah.
the show Jackass?
Yes.
I hated it.
Me
Like
too.
I thought it was the stupidest, most mean. Like every time I tried to watch it because it was a cultural phenomenon. It was like what the kids were talking about.
Yes.
And I was just like, I hate this. I hate this. I can't, there's not a single part of me that can get there to enjoy it.
When the Saw movies came out, I had a similar reaction of like, what
Mm.
is wrong with you people? Why are you going to see this? Like, what is wrong with you? I was scared for our
Yeah.
generation when people loved those, and I was like, I'm not like you. And now
But
look at
Saw
me.
is so good.
I know, and that's what I say. Now look at me.
Yeah.
How far we've fallen. But you and I both, as kids, couldn't look at the covers in Blockbuster. The
Yeah.
in the horror section, we were like,
Such scaredy cats. So I haven't seen Hostel. They're about the same as yours. There's some that I'm just not interested in, like Serbian film. I won't see Last House on the Left. I don't want to watch women being sexually assaulted. There's exceptions to that. Not that I want to see that, but films that I think are so good and so important that have those scenes for a real reason that say something that is worthwhile to hear. Like we mentioned, I saw The Devil. It's really a brutal watch, but I think it's like one of the best movies.
Audition too. I mean,
Audition is,
Audition is a really brutal watch, but I
yes,
think it's
I
of
think
cultural
it's,
significance. It's art.
yeah.
It's art.
I rate them. Red Rooms I absolutely loved. It was I think I described it as very disgustingly both sticky and juicy. Sticky meaning it sticks with you, and juicy meaning there's a lot there to talk about and pull apart. Um, I think it's a five. I think it's a five. I don't think it could have been any better. I'm really excited to see more work from this director.
Yes.
Um, and Tusk is interesting because it's so singular. I think and like I like it and it's also not something that is for everyone. Um and there's certainly a lot of things about it that are not good and that I would change. I think what I've kind of been saying in my public rating is like it's a little bit more than worth a watch. It's like a 3.5. But my personal level of enjoyment with it is more like a 4.
Yeah. Okay. So Red Rooms, in terms of just filmmaking, like it's kind of perfect. It's a five. In there's nothing. It's great. My personal enjoyment rating, though, I can't really rate it. It's unrated. It's a it's insomnia rating. Did not sleep well. I had very weird dreams after I watched it. So I can't even really comment on that. But it's a good movie. It is very well made movie.
Yeah.
Tusk, Here's the deal with Tusk. Okay. The deal with Tusk is when on the original podcast where Tusk was conceived as a joke, um, all Kevin Smith asked is walrus yes, walrus no, yes or no. Do you want this movie to exist or not? That's what he asked of his fans. Because the fans said yes, we do want it to exist. I feel like that's the only way for me to rate Tusk. That it's not a 1 to 5 stars. Who cares? Throw the stars out the window. Uh, it is a yes or no movie. And these are the options you have, however it plays out, however it goes. And I say yes. And when I said yes to Tusk for the first time, and I said, okay, let's just do this. We're going to do this. I don't regret it. And now a lot of people do regret it. And I'm so sorry that you had to see that. A lot of people say this gave me nightmares for years. I can't. I know, it's really sad. But somehow I don't know if it was context or what, but somehow I don't regret it. And I'm happy to live in a universe where Tusk exists. And so, yes, Walrus, yes.
Walrus, yes.
Walrus,
Walrus, walrus, yes. That's where we land.
yes. Okay, but I think after this I'm gonna order some sushi.
You know what goes really well with Tusk? Sushi.
Sushi.
Damn if that mackerel didn't look tasty. Oh, you know what I did want to say before we go is thank you so much to the handful of subscribers that we have. That's it. Just
Yeah, you
thank you.
guys are real troopers. Thank you.
I don't understand you, but I love you.
Kind of like Tusk.
Kind of like Tusk.
Okay.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Okay.
Walruses never cry.